pleasure to meet with you, talk to you, I think, after 27, 28 years. So glad to connect with you. Do you want to start with just telling us about your family? In your case, it's even more interesting, more important, and more closer to home for us.
Absolutely, Vishal. Wonderful connecting with you after nearly 28 years now. 1996 is what when we met last. And I've been only looking at your updates and hearing from each other. Lately, at least through WhatsApp, we know everyone's there.
Yep,
So
yep, yep.
wonderful one of connecting. So yes, it's been quite a ride since then. And family front, of course, I'm married to Mita, and Mita and me were together at college. So she was
Yep.
chemical and bioengineering. I was industrial engineering. So 4 years of college. Then subsequently, she was working with Biocon in Bangalore, and I was initially with Grindwell Norton, Saint Gobain Metrotex in Bangalore, and then joined Infosys in Bangalore. So till
Oh,
98 I
so
was there.
yeah, I recall that you got that job in campus, right? The Granville Norton.
Yes,
Yep,
yes.
yep, yep, yep. And then you
So
moved to IT. I did not know that.
yeah, so for about a year and a half, I was with Grindwell Norton and
Okay,
Bangalore. So initially 6 months in Bangalore, and then about a year in Pune. And then I made a switch. I moved to IT, and I came back to Bangalore with Infosys. Was
got you.
privileged at that time to be among the initial 4,000 or 5,000 people, and the induction done by Mr. Narayan Murthy, and him traveling in bus with us.
Oh
So it
wow,
was it
oh
was a
wow,
great time to be there.
excellent.
So about a year till 98 end I was there. And 98 end is when I was due for my US posting, when I decided to join back the family business,
Yep.
where we already had a manufacturing setup in Indore, which my father and his partner had started. And every vacation, whether during school or whether during college, I used to work in the factory and do stuff. So it was always connected in some manner. So when I was
Yep,
about to
yep.
leave Grindwell, I had asked them, can I come back and join the business? They said, no, we can't afford you.
Sure. Hey, yeah, I knew that you had a family business, but before we talk about that, I want to talk a little bit about Mita. How is she doing? And about kids. Do you have kids, or tell us a little bit about that too? About first, let's start with Mita.
Yes, Mita has been doing well. So Mita, after her bioconstant, we got married in 2000. So it was the Y2K bug, and so Mita
And you
moved to
still have
Indore.
that bug strong, right?
Yeah, it's going strong. We bug each other a lot. So so 2000 she moved to Indore. Initially, she worked with a couple of sectoral companies in the chemical sector, but then she found a calling into teaching. So slowly she moved into teaching, and then more and more into teaching underprivileged children. So she worked within slums. She worked in different kind of organizations, and at some point she realized that she needed a little more education in dealing with children. So she did a master's in psychology,
Oh
counseling
wow.
psychology, and then she is now a counselor. So works with a variety of people across the segment, youngsters, elderly. So
What
on a
age
family.
group of kids does she teach, or did she teach?
So age group was varied, right
Okay,
from let's say younger to older, but mostly she was volunteering at a lot of places and
got you.
working.
Okay.
So that was it. Family front, we have two boys, Tanish and Tanay. So Tanish is about 22 now,
Oh
22, and
wow.
in final year chemical engineering at VIT Vellore. Like mother, like son.
Yeah, so the fruit doesn't
And
fall too far from the tree.
yeah. It doesn't fall far. And he is the more sincere of our children. And I used to say that if I have a family company, then he's the technical director. And the younger one is about 5 years younger, Tanay, and he's the marketing director who can prove a circle as a square. He finally decided there were too many engineers in the family, and he wanted to initially go into English literature because he wanted to write books.
Mm-hmm.
When we convinced him that, with ChatGPT, days of English is limited. So he agreed to do a commerce. So he's now in 12th class doing his commerce and intends to do his master's in business administration and maybe, do what he wants to do. So let's see how he turns up.
Yep,
But he's
yep.
a
So we
naughty
are
guy.
nice, nice. We are a little bit, I guess we are catching up with you. We have two girls and a boy. Our eldest is going to 10th grade. The middle one is going to seventh grade, and the younger one is going to third grade. And
Okay.
here we start a little late. They're all late starters, and quite frankly, I used to be the youngest amongst the youngest in my class all my life, and I was like, I didn't really gain anything by doing that. So I said, hey, just take your time. So they're all here. The cutoff is end of August, and all three of them is are after August. So they are sort of late, but in some ways much better, you know.
Fantastic.
So we are a little bit behind you. So talking about your, I know that I think I thought that after college you joined your family business, but you had not, because I always thought that Tanmay went back and joined his dad, and basically I know that you joined him and then you did something in Goa. So tell us a little bit about, that joining your dad sort of journey too.
Yeah. So initially I was with Grindel Norton, then I moved to Infosys. And Infosys, when I was about to get my US posting, and I had been pestering earlier that, can I come? And when my posting got due and I was about to be posted, they said, if you want to join us, this is the right time. We are talking about a new technology which we want you to, spearhead and take it
Yep,
forward.
yep.
So I took about 6 months to make up my mind. And, and they were very blunt about it. They said, we'll pay you half what you're getting in Infosys. And once you join us, there'll be no going back. Your career is finished forever. So this is a one-way track. So if you
And
can
you'll be
come,
working twice as hard for half the salary.
yeah, so for half the salary. So November, I think December 98, I came back. 99 beginning, I was already on the job. So we had two divisions actually. So my father and his partner had started these companies together. We had two or three generation family friends. And so one was into electrical electronic control panels, which my father used to manage. And they also made shooting ranges for defense applications. So
Mhm.
a lot of our commandos as well as the sports people used to practice on our shooting ranges. So these were automated targets and everything. And the second division was fiberglass components. So my father's partner was a boat builder initially, sitting in Indore, middle of nowhere, no rivers, not next to the sea, but they used to make sea-going vessels about 35 years back.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, yeah, 40 years probably. And then they branched into automotive. So this was both handling both the divisions. And when I came in, I was with my industrial engineering background. I couldn't get into electronic part of the business. So I moved along with my uncle. And it was also quite willful that the reporting was made very clear that, don't report to your father.
Yep.
And I used to report to my uncle. So, family and businesses were clearly demarcated.
Nice, nice, nice.
So that way it was nice. But then, we were about at that point about 40, 50 people in the organization and a small setup. But the advantage which came in was that, with my both technical and, product development orientation, marketing orientation, and all around orientation, I could do a lot of things. So that way, my father and his partner could, look into expanding and thinking on new ideas while I started on the ground from the shop floor.
Yep.
The shop floor team anyway knew me because I was, doing my summer work with them. But now it was, growing through the ranks and developing the command in the organization,
Right.
doing new things. So this was new technology that we brought in. So initially I was for some time in UK and France, getting trained on a
Learning.
new
Yep.
process, a new technology, which we then adapted. So I had two workers assigned to me out of those 30, 40, with whom and an area allocated to me, and I had to produce the parts. So effectively, we were catering to the automotive customers, which is like Eicher Motors, go making the trucks, then Force Motors, John Deere tractors, and most of these parts were handmade by me. So we used to, literally make those parts by hand. And I was wearing a jeans and a shirt, and every day they would be patched with the resin and the paint and the marks. So it was interesting time. But that set me in a very beautiful position organization wide, as in, they knew I
Yep.
knew my job. So,
Yep.
how to
And you
make
can
parts, nobody could.
you can
Yeah.
roll up your sleeves and get your
Yeah,
hands
get my
dirty
hands
and do it.
dirty.
But I have
So,
to say, we're also entrepreneurs. It sounds like the perfect
mm,
career and the perfect job. Did that feel like that? I'm sure it didn't feel like that at the time, but reflecting back,
uh,
how does that feel?
see, that time it didn't really feel that, because I was crazy working. So morning
Yep.
to night I was working. So, and I was mad. I mean, I didn't have a personal life at that point anymore. So Y2K, I got married as well, and then yet, I mean, Mita knows the better part of that. Then, I was working Saturdays, I was working Sundays. Diwali Subeh, we used to do the puja, and then when a Subeh we used to finish the work and then do the puja and then go home. So, we were kind of working 360, 365 days a year.
Wow.
And in
Wow.
an automotive industry, what happens is we were catering to, just-in-time lines. So there is
Sure.
no scope for delays or no scope for a goof
Right.
up. And with a, nascent, smaller organization, we were expanding, growing, trying new things. We were designing new products. So I was writing quality standards. I was meeting the client and designing products and building them.
Oh,
Then
wow.
you fit them and the part doesn't fit in a truck and you realize, oh, you've moved up this way. So a lot of learning and a lot of growth at that point. So best part was because I grew through the ranks and then handled the production, the operations, the sourcing, purchasing, then the product development, marketing. So everything slowly, built on, and both my father and my uncle slowly stepped back, and we opened a plant in Goa because we developed the first set of bus components for Tata Motors. So the first fiberglass bus components for them was built by us, and that really became a game changer in India, because
Hmm.
buses till then were all made fabricated in steel. So
Right.
it's not easy to have that new technology coming in where people
Yep.
would say, ये तो plastic है, this will break.
Yep.
And what we used to convince them that you try it out, and if it fails, we'll take the risk.
Right.
And that way we kept on adding more and more products. We expanded a lot. And we opened the Goa plant because then we had a Tata Motors at a bus plant in Goa. And so I was doing 3 days in Indore, 3 days in Goa. At some point, I never knew where I was waking up next day. So that was a crazy time. Setting up a new factory was a big challenge. And then running it from Indore was the bigger one. So,
Wow.
you would, in a new setup, you would realize the moment you came back home, the next day everything was, silent. Everybody was back to enjoying. And then there was a time when I'm going to come back to plant. And then, everybody would suddenly start taking leaves. So at some point, I stopped telling them when I'm arriving at Goa. It was a crazy
So, so,
time.
so fast forward today, do you still have the same setup like Goa, Indore, or has that changed?
So that's actually expanded much more now.
Uh-huh.
So we had a plant in Goa, and then I took up a home in Goa as well. So I was doing so much travel, so I bought a home there. So that's my only asset that I have in terms of, because Indore I have a family home. So Goa I bought a home and I was staying there. And we also opened up a sub facility. It's a kind of an assembly facility in
Hmm.
Dharwad,
Hmm.
where Tata
Yep.
Motors again had a plant. Later, then we opened a facility in Chennai, which to cater to Daimler trucks. So we expanded quite well. By 2015, we did a joint venture with a German company
Hmm.
to introduce a very new range of plastics in India. And this was kind of an unbreakable plastic and a very new technology which no one had tried out. And we essentially curated the whole process. So I was traveling to Germany, getting the technology. This time around, we also had a lot of international customers. So we were supplying parts to the London buses, the double-decker red buses. The bumpers were all done by us.
Nice.
Then we started supplying to a company called Pentair, which was based out of USA, Belgium, China, and India. So sitting in India, we were exporting components to China, USA, and Belgium. So it was crazy time. We were growing like crazy. Every year on year, we were growing at a very high speed. So by the time it was 2019, we were close to about 700 people working together across these four facilities, and
Oh,
then the
wow.
JV run. So it's been a crazy
That's
ride since
actually,
then.
that's more than 10, almost like 15 times the growth from when you joined.
Yes.
Yep.
On a
Yep. Yep.
turnover front also, we did quite well. But yes, being in automotive, it was always a challenge, managing finances, managing profitability, raw material rates. Customer would be ruthless. So that honed a lot of, skills and abilities that, even the worst of situation, how to handle it.
Yep.
So, it,
So
it, it
you
gave
you
us
did you did 100% full justice to your college degree then.
kind of, I mean, people used to say industrial engineering is, essentially a management kind of a degree. And I
Hmm.
realized it's probably the best degree that I could hope for in my career,
Hmm.
because it prepared me well with some basic mechanical engineering. And what I remember, a lot of our faculty from college that time used to encourage a lot of using the library. And we had some tie-ups with IIT Delhi, where I would visit at least once a semester and
Hmm.
spend time in their library, going through a lot of, research papers, going through a lot of journals. So that got me into a habit of, not just looking into what is being taught or what is being, put on a platter, but going out and figuring out new things.
Yeah.
And that really helped. I mean, in course of my work, because automotive is a lot of low cost automation and a lot of, innovations, new things that you try out. So there was a time when we were about to buy a new machine, and the machine cost was, let's say, X. And then there was this automated machine which cost 2.5x.
Uh-huh.
And we were always short of budget,
Sure,
where
of
do you
course.
spend money? What do you
Yeah.
do? Who do you prioritize? So I just sat down with the specs of both the machines, and I realized that, a 0.1x investment and a logic design. So the advantage of my father being an electronics engineer was great help. So, and my software background. So a mechanical machine with some PLC controllers, with some basics taught by my father, and then I programmed it. So 0.1x addition in cost made that X cost machine equal to 2.5x.
Oh
So
wow. So you all actually enhanced the
1.1x
machine.
enhance the
Yeah.
machine at
Yeah.
2.1x.
Okay.
And that really opened my eyes, that, there's so much to do by
Yep.
just simple,
Yep.
thinking and looking into what is it exactly that you are trying to achieve.
Right.
And that was the game changer for me, because since
Yep.
then I've been doing lots of crazy stuff and lots of unique things. But that was a
Yeah.
trigger.
Yeah, engineers are supposed to be problem solvers. So I guess then you certainly have been doing a lot of that in your career, along with, and I think my appreciation for your uncle and your dad has gone up quite a bit too. They were fairly astute in setting you up correctly, and then making you sort of go through all that hardship, and making you sort of the kind of person that you became, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, I would say another important part was also my professional working for about 2.5 years.
Sure. Yeah.
That made me understand the importance of organization structures, how do systems work, how do reporting work. That brought a lot of professional approach when I joined the business. It was not for granted. And
Hmm.
obviously, the two of them were very clear on how they wanted to groom me and get me to develop the command, and it went through the hard route of ground up.
Right.
And that's what happened when my father's partners, son and daughter, joined. They reported to me. They didn't report to their father, so they reported to me. And I was happy to groom them and get them to a point, where they could be as what had happened to me. So,
Yep, yep.
been
I
an interesting ride.
my memory of you from college is, I think you were, I wouldn't call you jack of all trades, but you were pretty good in a lot of activities, right? Singing and debate and quiz, and I guess anything that was co-curricular, you were there. That's my memory of Tanmay. So, what is your favorite memory of college times, Tanmay?
So actually, that runs in the family.
Uh-huh.
So there was this wonderful ad that used to come of Tata, that steel, which used to say, and the punchline was, "We also make steel."
Oh
So
yes, yes.
my father, mother, and my entire extended family has been quite active in all fields. So they've been into education, good in studies, and then co-curricular music runs in the family. Everybody sings, everybody acts, everybody does drama, does everything else. So a bunch of artists in the family. So I think that's what has always been, that anything you put your mind or heart into, you do it. So, and you
Yeah,
enjoy it.
absolutely. So what
So I
was the
think
best, what was one memory that comes to you from our college times?
So I think the most important memory from college is actually the friends and extended family, as you would call it at that point.
Yep.
Because I moved out of a very close knit family into hostel for the first time, and it was kind of a shock at some point because, you tend to be very individualistic when you are brought up in a very secure environment and you can fight with the world and come back home and your mother will say and your father will say, sab theek hai, everything is fine.
Yep.
Okay. But here you were in a college where end of the day, if you fought with someone at college, you had to face the same guy in the room, sulking in a corner, not talking to you. It was crazy. So, you
Yep.
learn to adapt there. You learn to
Yep.
appreciate the deficiencies of people and yet look forward to working with them. And REC being REC at that point was a brilliant place because you had people from every nook and corner of the country.
Right.
And today, whatever I am, people call me, I'm excellent in dealing with people and handling people. I think a big contributor for that has been REC because
Sure.
I knew what are the traits of a person from Goa, what are the traits for a person from Andhra, from Kerala, from Bengal.
Right.
Every part of the country, there were these unique traits that they had, the unique context that they had, which governed the way they behaved, or governed the way they did things. So it was
Yeah.
a
And also, I think the level of confidence that we would have
yeah.
dealing with people from all walks, and I think that body language, people can sense that hey, he's been dealing with people like me before. It's not his first time, kind of thing.
Yeah. So I call myself a Bengali by birth, but a Punjabi by heart.
Of course, of course, of course. Very good.
Punjabi is quite dominant in the way I do things. मतलब वो कोई गल नहीं देख लेंगे.
देख लेंगे हाँ टक्का टक्का
वो एक confidence और
yeah
जो एक वो go getter approach आ जाता है.
right
I think
right
that's something that you learn in a place like Punjab there.
yeah
And the friends, actually, those extended friends, those 4 years that went by, I think they were a great learning and a great, and the way we have still remained connected with most of them is quite
yep
interesting.
yep
That
for sure
you can go anywhere in the world and you throw a stone, someone's there.
yeah and the first 4 months of ragging I think that was going through that it was a nightmare right every evening used to be a nightmare but looking back I guess there's so many memories of those four
Yeah, but
months
but mine was a different kind of nightmare because
uh-huh
I used to sing, so I was always made to stand on a stool while all of you got trashed, And I was singing on a stool. I was told very clearly, the moment you stop singing, we'll start trashing you. So I was singing nonstop. End of the By the mid of the first sem, I think I had bronchitis or something. I couldn't, breathe
uh-huh
anymore, sing anymore. My voice had gone hoarse. But
interesting
yes, quite a interesting time at that.
yep so how have you changed since college have you changed much? And I guess what are some of the things or experiences that would have, that were sort of more, that would have caused that change?
So I think, as I said, I was, quite self-contained and self-driven
Right.
before I joined college. By the time I left college, I was much more social and much more, acceptable, accepting things that were not in my control. And I was also a little vocal about issues, and I learned in those 4 years how to handle those issues. Like we used to have a lot of these issues in college, some water not coming in tap, some strike here, some paper issue, some this issue, and
Right.
you learn to manage those things both in a very angry way and then also in a very mature way, and you strike a balance, and there was a lot of learning there. So I think that prepared me a lot to handle difficult situations. So when I went to factory, I knew exactly how to handle difficult situations. So I think that learning stays with you. And the people part, how do you deal with people? I think that was a big jump for me pre-college and post-college, and that actually lingered on. So I think that was a turning point of my career, or life, if you can say that.
Gotcha. And you just came back, or you're probably still doing the trip that you were doing, or you just come back. I sounded like a very interesting thing. You were in middle of nowhere. So tell me a little bit about that. I was curious to just know
So,
what you were up
so
to.
I'll tell you what happened. So 25 years of doing, the same thing and growing the business and, um, I realized that, I'd been from this point and I'd reached this point and there was nothing quite more exciting to do. So everything became a little routine. Though we were growing well, there were lots of projects happening, the team was expanding, we were adding
Sure.
new customers, new products. But at some point, every morning I could just close my eyes and say, do this, do this, do this. Somebody said, this has happened. Okay, do this. Everything was so predictable and you were quite
Right.
so tuned to it because you've been involved from day one. So at some point, I realized that I didn't want to do this anymore.
I
And it was
see.
also triggered sometime around the COVID period by death of a very few close friends and one of very close classmate of mine from school. So there was this guy who was a bike rider and very close and the outstanding student of the class, always getting punished for some mischief. His name was Gaurav, and he was the darling of the batch. So, every time there was some mischief, Gaurav is out, and when we all got into our the rut of the life, Gaurav was the one who was still a freewheeler. So he was free thinking, freewheeling, and once a year he would come to Indore. All school friends would catch up. 2 days of crazy, talks and food and whatnot, and then we would appreciate, that there's someone who's living the life on behalf of us, a free
Sure.
spirit, free soul. His passing away kind of hit quite close to the heart, that, he kept telling us that, all the schoolmates should get together and he'll organize a ride around Ladakh and other region.
Yep.
We kept deferring it because, we would want it around the summer vacation when our children and wives would also join. And he would keep saying, no, no, we'll travel alone and we'll do it in July, August when the schools are
Right.
open. And the dates would just not add up. At that point, I realized that, when he passed away, and I'd already made up my mind that, this is not something I'm enjoying anymore in terms of it's repetitive. So I've been good at doing a lot of innovative things. So like we were trying to expand in our factory into by adding robots for painting. And while traditional robot would have cost about 1.5 crores, and I actually built one at about 13 lakhs. So
Oh, wow.
using
Okay.
off the shelf items, and
Uh-huh.
it worked very well. So that, opened up mind to, taking off the shelf solutions and putting them together and seeing what can be done. So I think that approach really made me think that, if I can do this for automotive customers where the, everything is so tight in terms of quality, cost, delivery, everything is so fine tuned, why can't I use the same knowledge into the grassroots level, into the
Mm-hmm.
problems that are today prevalent all over India around us, and we can see them.
Sure.
But, nobody really does too many things about them. So, despite all the schemes and all the government initiatives and all the NGOs working, why are we not able to close and kill problems? Why do they still persist?
Mm-hmm.
So, around that time, I decided that I want to move out of my business and talked among the family, among the partners, and my father's partners, both son and daughter, had already been groomed enough. And then I said, both of them can take over. I'm not needed anymore. So it took some time. We had a transition phase, but I decided to exit the business. We kept the information initially quite limited that,
Sure.
it
Sure.
was kind of that I'm taking a sabbatical leave.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the time when I slowly withdrew from the business. So customers would still call me up and I would tell them, okay, let me ensure someone gets back to you and sorts it out. And once it was sorted
Right.
out, the guy would call me and then I would call the customer. And then, you know, six
Yep.
months later, the customer stopped calling me as well.
Right.
So,
Right.
but I didn't tell them that I'm leaving. Otherwise, it would have been a little disaster because most of these customers had been, dealing with me and would have
Yeah.
realized if he goes, then what happens to the business?
And people can make up stories in their mind of,
Correct,
what the
correct.
reason is, and mostly their stories are wrong and negative. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
better to sort of, even it out.
correct. So first I did a 11-day road trip into the Kashmir, Ladakh and Himachal area where I kind of traveled solo because I had coordinated with a group which was riding, but they had riders
Yep.
coming in and going out in different segments. I was probably the longest one. And that
And you
ride
started
changed.
from Indore, is that correct?
No, I
Okay.
drove, I flew till Delhi and then from there to Kashmir. So we started from a particular point. And then it was, I think, just before Ladakh. So we
And
started
was it
from
your
Kashmir.
own bike, or did you get a
No,
bike in
I
Delhi?
hired a bike there. because I
Okay,
didn't want to
gotcha.
do too complicated things. I
Yeah,
wanted to focus on the ride rather than, with the maintenance and
of
stuff and
course.
getting.
Right,
So
right.
I want to, it was kind of a tribute to my friend who had passed away. And I said that, I don't care. My friends are not coming in. I'm riding solo. So he actually got a national award for his first movie that he made in documentary, which was called Riding Solo to the Top of the World.
Uh-huh.
So in his honor, I rode solo. So I took the bike and then 11 days through Ladakh, through empty roads, ending up to Manali. And then, those empty roads, mountain on one side, the water flowing on another side, and the thumping sound of the bullet, tug, 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 tug. And you can actually see your life, flowing in
Right,
front of you.
right.
And 2 hours, we didn't see any people in front of us. That was the kind of barren landscape. And that gave a lot of time to contemplate as to what I wanted to do with my life.
Gotcha.
So at some point, and then coming back, I'd made up my mind. And few months later, I was out of the business. But then I didn't know what I want to do. So I wanted to join the social sector, but I realized it the hard way that, I would have been a superstar in the field of composites, in the field of automotives. But in the social sector, nobody cared who I was.
So during this trip, like where were you sleeping? Did you have your sleeping bags or did you stay in like a hotel?
So there were different arrangements at different locations. Somewhere it was
Okay.
10, somewhere it was hotel, somewhere it was. So, I'd left the logistics and the, maintenance and everything part to these people. So for me, it was kind of, I woke up in the morning, every morning, and I
You're
was
focused
riding,
on yourself and
focused
just
on myself
enjoying the trip. Gotcha.
in my zone. Evening, I was there with people, talking to people. You would
Yeah,
pass villages, sit down there, chat with people, chat with
yeah.
small kids. And the best part in those hilly areas is they're so friendly and warm.
Right.
Every time you ride by somebody would, some kid will say bye, bye, bye. There's so much purity in that action at that
So
point. And
you guys went up to Leh and then did you like stay there for any number of days or so how did that sort of work out?
so every day we used to ride, and then
Hmm.
evening we would stay in some place where we'd end up. And then across all these locations, we would end up
Okay,
finally across Ladakh, across all the passes, and then into Himachal. So finally ending up in Manali.
gotcha.
So it was quite interesting, but that was, what made me decide that I wanted to come out of the business and do things on my own.
Sure,
But
sure.
the second part was where it was tricky. So how do you, do what you do, and where do you go in the social sector? There are no people waiting for you that Tanmay will come and he'll do some miracles on this problem of ours or solve this problem. There's nothing like that.
So what you do and how do you support yourself and your family too, right? Somewhat of that or no?
So in terms of, because we had exited the business, so the money was taken care of. So
Okay, cool.
this 25 years of hard work and, building the organization was fairly, so from my, I would say my monetary part of my life got over at that point.
Okay,
Okay.
great, great,
So
excellent.
what I wanted to do beyond that was to, do something which excited me and do something which, would interest me for the, and maybe do 10 different things which I knew nothing about,
Sure.
and learn there and start afresh and kind of live a new life at that point. And that's where I think I started writing to people, and I wrote to Sonam Wangchuk in Ladakh, and there was no response initially. One fine day, there was a new girl who came into the HR department, and she was going through about 3,000 mails, and she saw 30 of my mails there. And she set up a call between me, Sonam, and her, and we connected well. And Sonam said, "Why don't you come down?" So 2022, I landed in Ladakh on an initial 7 to 10 day kind of a visit. And we discussed a lot of ideas. So Sonam has been great in terms of, education in Ladakh, where he did the Sikmol thing, where he
Yep, yep.
really brought up the, change in the mindset of how
Right.
education needs to be brought to people in the hills. And now he had started something called Himalayan Institute of Alternatives, where they were looking into contextual problems. It was kind of a post graduation or a university kind of Ladakh. And we realized that, Sonam with his Himalayan Institute, Sonam and his wife Gitanjali were running this. And they were doing a lot of ideas which were trying to solve contextual problems. So there are these passive solar heated houses where without any external heating in a minus 20-degree outside temperature, the inside temperature would still be 20 degree using pure, solar heating and using design, architectural design with double walls, houses made with mud and straw. So, it
Wow.
was quite an interesting kind of innovation. So Sonam had the view that, these can be commercialized. And if you commercialized all these ideas and you had interns working on them, live projects, then the revenues that would come would help make the education system free there. So they had tried a few things, made a few of these solar heated houses initially, and it was not a profitable venture the first time around because lots of things were tried in. So I came in, I joined in early March, April into 2022, and me and Sonam and his wife stayed in the same house. So we had one bedroom, he had one, and the center part was our office. It was a beautiful place, but it was a stark. It was all stark, so it was all. It's like an ice cold desert,
Yep.
and you have these beautiful views, but then hardly any people going around. So we had about 30 odd people in the campus, mostly youngsters. So 22 to about 30 was 35 was the bracket. And then there was me, Swanam and his wife. So it was quite a range. And that 1 year, I had a chance to, work into architecture. So
And this
construction,
was all in Ladakh.
all in Ladakh. So
Okay.
we were based out of Leh in a near Leh place called Fiang. So where
Uh-huh.
we had the facility, and then we were building new buildings in that same facility, and then we took up contracts from the army to build these shelters on the borders.
Mm-hmm.
I had zero background of construction. I'm not a civil engineer. I knew nothing about buildings.
Sure.
I had a bunch of interns and architects working with me, and I was supposed to, convert all these ideas into functioning businesses. I did what I was good at doing, get my hands dirty.
Yep.
So I would make bricks by my hand. I would try things my own, talk to all the architects. I was supposed to lead that team, but I went and told them, see, my role is very simple. I'm here to facilitate. I can help you do what you are good at. So every morning we'd have this short conversation where they would say what happened yesterday and what are we planning for today, and we try to
Yep.
sort out. And then I started traveling a lot. So I met the entire army team. We met the commandants, the engineering course, understood what was the requirement. And I brought in all my automotive best practices into play. So we first sorted out the sourcing. So we talked to the suppliers, negotiated the best deals, looked into how we can bring down the logistic
Mm-hmm.
costs. So we had architects loading trucks and they were going crazy. Why is this man asking us to load trucks? And then we understood how to optimize the load, how much material, because in the mountains, even a short distance of, let's say, about 150 kilometers or 200 kilometers, it would cost about 40,000-50,000 rupees to transport from one location because of the
Sure.
terrain. It was
Sure.
difficult
Sure.
to move material. So how do you optimize everything? How do you make a project plan? And I had my Mahindra Thar vehicle with me, which I moved from Goa. So I had a Thar in Goa and I drove down in that to Ladakh. It was a 5-day journey. And then that was my favorite companion all everywhere
Sure.
in Ladakh. I was doing average about 400 to 800 kilometers a week, traveling to all sorts of border locations. And the best part was because it was a green colored Thar and I would be always in my gray t-shirts and cargo pants. Every checkpost I cross, I would invariably get a salute from the checkpost, thinking that this is some army guy. And the army was kind enough, the military, the engineering corps was kind enough. They would always, notify green colored Thar being driven by Tanmay ji is for
Right.
our projects.
Sure.
Do
Yep.
not worry. So I had access to a lot of these forward locations where we went and worked with them. So it was a wonderful 1 year that went. And we managed to build about 17 or 16 shelters that year for the Army and the Air Force across really forward locations. I mean, one of them was at about 18,000 feet and snow clad all year long. And, it was
Uh-huh.
just across the international border or line of control with Chinese.
Yep.
And it was crazy. And so that year went like a
Interesting. Interesting. And
whiff and
and I'm assuming very cold. You probably have never experienced that level of cold in your life before.
cold. The altitude, the oxygen level is about 50 to 60% at that
Yep.
altitude. Temperatures would dip to -20, -30 in peak winters. And I was driving on snow-clad roads where I had no experience of driving. I'm, crossing through Changla Pass. And if you accelerate, the vehicle sits. If you decelerate, the vehicle sits. You have to maintain a constant speed and be
Ah,
very that you're
interesting.
not going to fall into the gorge. So
Interesting. And in the evenings, would you guys like sit down, the three of you or few of you with Sonam, and have kava, chai, coffee, whatever it was, and just chat, chit
it
chat?
was a great setup while everybody was along around, because it was always limited. Sonam was traveling, Gitanjali was traveling, and so when we were around, it was great fun. Home cooked food, Gitanjali would cook for all of us, and it was wonderful. But more often than not, I would be mostly alone in that facility because there was a lot of traveling. Gitanjali was away for a couple of months for a program that she had to attend, course that she
Sure,
was doing. So this was the time when I connected with all the youngsters there. So it was a wonderful connection. And then I was traveling to people's home in Ladakh. I was traveling to different places. So that we also had a tourism division. So we were setting up homestays across villages. So that we were trekking to different locations, finding out homestays, enabling them. So Ladakh has this issue where the youngsters go out and they never come back because there are no job
sure.
opportunities or education. So the idea was to enable these homestays where the parents maybe start earning with these homestays and the youngsters can come back. So I had a great connect with all these youngsters and it was good fun. So as we were doing music, we were doing traveling, we were doing lots of things and so much to learn from them. For me,
Yep.
entire learning about different segments was happening here.
And this was when 2012, did you say?
2022.
22, sorry, 2022. So that wasn't like that was only a couple of years ago. So where does that stand today, and what are you doing like today?
So 2022, November end or December, I decided to come back. Though I would have
Okay,
loved to stay there longer, but I realized in that entire year I had come back home price.
sure.
The original idea was, I would spend 3 weeks there and 1 week back at Indore. But
Yep.
because Ladakh has these extended summers, 8 months you can work, in 4 months everything closes down because the roads are full of ice, snow,
Uh-huh.
and the is closed. The roads can't be accessed. So effectively, 8 months I worked like crazy. Where 3 times was I came back home. Mita maybe visited a couple of times. And I realized it was not really, you know,
Yep.
comfortable at that point because my elder son was anyway in college. We had written him off. But the younger one was at that time in class 10th. And,
Yep.
it's a little crucial year. And
Sure. Yep.
I said that my parents were not getting any younger. So they were touching 80.
Yep.
And I said, I think my job here is done. So I spoke with Sonam and told him, in future, I'm available on call. And the best part was the systems were set up. So the
Yep.
team set up how to convert the idea into a business, the mechanisms, the departments, the sourcing, the mechanisms. I think they were fairly fine tuned. And that year, once we completed about 16, 17 buildings, it was quite nice. And
Yep.
even the homestays, everything, we had a good learning. So 22 end, I came back. And again, I was not so clear what I wanted to do next. But funnily, a lot of these youngsters started coming and connecting with me. And then there was this incubation center in Indore
Mm-hmm.
where they wanted me to deliver talks. And
Sure.
I started speaking on my journey in Ladakh and generally about innovation as a concept. So I deliver these talks, which makes it in a very interesting way how you structure innovation and what are the kinds of innovation that come into
Mm-hmm.
play, giving examples. So things started moving, and a lot of these youngsters started coming to me for business mentorship. And did this all pro bono. I didn't want any commercial
Sure. Sure.
entanglement anymore in my life. And this is the time when I started curating a couple of organizations which were close to my heart. So there was this guy who wanted to do something with banana waste, a banana as a crop. Banana after about 8 or 9 months, when the fruiting happens, the plant rots and dies off. So, and it's not a woody material. So it's 90% water. So everything it just rots on the field. You can't do anything with it. So initially he wanted to make flour out of the banana, raw banana. And I said, somehow this is not adding up. And then we looked into the entire case and we found that the banana stem we could convert into cups and plates
Mm-hmm.
process.
Uh-huh.
So that year went in refining that idea, and we got a grant from the government as well to process it, and we are about to complete it. But I
I
think
see.
more importantly, early 2023 is when there's this organization called Udyam Learning Foundation based out of Bangalore. This was started by Mekin Maheshwari, who is a ex-Flipkart, the early founders of
Mm-hmm.
Flipkart, and Krishnan Ranganathan. So they essentially focus on entrepreneurial mindset. So You have two programs here. One is called Shiksha, which works with students in schools, government schools, and make the entrepreneurial mindset as part of the curriculum. And they're encouraged to take, run small businesses. They're given some seed amount to try out things and fail and learn.
Right.
And the second part was Vyapar. So Vyapar is where they work with nano enterprises. So in India, 95% business, and not those big shot that you
Yep.
see on TV
Of
every day.
course. Of course.
95% of India is these nano enterprises, small enterprises, which is your corner tea shop, which is your sabji wala, which is your fruit vendor, which is your artisan, everyone,
Yep.
the common tailor. Now, this is a segment which is largely neglected, and Udyam works with them. So we started interacting, and initially I came in a kind of a consulting role, and then I came on board as a director for a team that's called New Solutions. So my role is I work in villages today around Indore. So right now I'm working across 35 villages around Indore. I'm also working with women enterprises around Delhi. I'm also working with waste picker businesses in Bangalore and street food vendors in Bangalore. And the idea is very simple. We work with diverse business segments and see how can we improve their incomes and make their business long-term sustainable. So let's say
Got you.
a street vendor would not look forward to his life for his children, the same life for his children. He would rather that, they get the study and maybe join some government service. How do you make this business sustainable? And, they should look
Yep.
forward to making it grow.
That's right. That's right. And something that is profitable for them, give them a good life and things like that, for sure.
And
So
all that I did was, we structured the thinking into how can we improve their sourcing? How can we improve their market linkage? How can we bring innovation in what they do? How can we get to direct business centric trainings? And
sure.
these yielded results. And, the joy that you get working in these grassroots where, there's a woman who's earning 20 rupees a day. And if you can make it to 50, it's not about, creating big
Yeah.
change, but small sustainable change which improve their earnings and their outlook to that business.
Yeah. So
Is
Tanmay, a lot of our friends are going to be watching you and listening to your story and your journey. Anything you want to tell them about the activities that you're doing? Do if they want to get involved or anything that you want to tell them about getting involved, contributing, giving back? Please share.
Absolutely. So there are a number of ways you can give back. So, most of us are in a position in life where we are kind of well settled. The children are grown up, and that phase of life is over where the mad rush was there. I was lucky that I could, exit my business and then do what I wanted to do. So for me, the logo is that, every morning I get up, I'm excited about trying something new. So whether it is I'm growing hydroponics in my office, lettuce and palak, and then I do laser etching, I do something else. Every day I try out some crazy new experiment. Some work, some fail, but then
Sure.
I try them out and then see how I can make a difference at grassroots level. So I think there are a couple of ways our friends and can collaborate and participate. Is one is by volunteering. So there's a lot of opportunity to help small businesses around you. So look around you and see where you can make a difference, identify, and maybe connect with people like us,
Mm-hmm.
and we can tell you how to go about it. It's important that what you do does not come as a charity or a dole or like an
Right.
expert talking to them. Like the way I function is first 2 months, wherever I work in any village, I go and listen to them and gain the trust. I
Yep.
don't sermonize, I don't talk anything. I just go and listen and live the life that they are living. You
Right.
know, Once I understand the context, I'll give the small nudges how they can try out new things. And being someone, who's tried out these things, and when they see the confidence grows and then they try out those things and then they succeed, it brings in results. I think those small results and pushes which encourages them to bring about change in their own life and maybe facilitate some of those things is all that's needed. So that's one thing that they can do, volunteer. And second is if they want to make monetary contributions, uh, our organization at least is FCRA registered as well. We also get foreign fundings. We also have local funding in India, so project based funding. So that's also an option. But I think more importantly, giving your time is something that I would encourage a lot of our friends to do. do something around your own place and try to see if you can bring those small changes around you.
Sure, and will add your contact information and your foundation information so that folks
Sure.
can get to you and get to it. So to wrap up, Tanmay, what would be the advice you'd give to your younger self, having lived such an interesting life with so many ups and downs and so much of variety?
Be crazy, break the rules, test your boundary, do something new every day, learn something new, do not stagnate, do not get stuck. And this is what I've done. So I would not say anything different to my younger self. I remember, that funny incidents I recite everywhere when I go, is we used to have that boundary wall, which used to jump and go to Bidipur to have our dinner.
Yep.
One fine day, somebody broke that wall. I love to recite this. Then the college authorities came, they built the wall again. Then we broke it down again. Then they built it again. Finally, they gave up, put a guard there with a register who used to put the entries. So this is something I tell everybody, persist with what you want to try and test your boundaries. Because conformism is not going to take you anywhere else. It
Right.
helps run things, but it's not going to create new things and new ideas and new thoughts. And it's not going to bring about change. Change will only come when you try new things and fail, maybe. That's okay. So I think that's the only thing that I would tell my younger self, and I'm sure he did that anyway.
Yep. So that's a true REC Maverick spirit, right? Solid advice, and it was such a pleasure catching up. And maybe got to do this again, maybe in a few months or a year or something like that. But hopefully we can connect and talk and maybe even work together or contribute in some way or fashion.
Absolutely, Vishal. It's absolutely wonderful connecting with you after 28 years, and
Yep.
You doing this with all of us is such a joy. Last week I was listening to Partha, and then you never realize what everybody else has done, and it's so nice
Absolutely.
to hear everyone's journey, everyone's story.
And
We all
that's the
started at
whole
the same
idea.
place. Yeah, we
Yeah,
all
that's the
started
idea
at the same
because
place
yep.
and branched out into so many wonderful areas.
And quite honestly, if we had not had this conversation, I wouldn't know even 1/10 of what you've done, right? And I'm sure this is only scratching the surface, right? We spend time, we probably learn a lot more about each other, but at least hopefully this can be a start.
Absolutely, Vishal.
Yep. Hey, say hello to Mita for me, and I'll wish to talk to her soon. Have a good one.
Will do. Love and to your
Cheers.
children and regards to your wife.
Ditto. Thank you. Have a good one.
See you. Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.